a guy in here last week who was a really big weed trafficker in the 80s in South Florida. Mm-hmm. And he was basically describing it like living in South Florida in the 80s, and especially if you're in your teenage years or your early 20s or mid 20s or whatever, he's like, you would have to be extremely lucky not to be given the opportunity to make a ton of money in cocaine or marijuana trafficking. He's like, chances are if you lived in South Florida in the 80s, you know somebody, you are trafficking cocaine or marijuana, or you are really good friends with somebody, you're really close with somebody who's doing that. And for the opportunity not to come across, not to hit you to, hey, you want to go out and unload this container for 50 grand, especially someone being in their 20s. He's like, that's why so many people like himself got wrapped up and got in trouble in those early days in South Florida, because it was so prevalent and it was everywhere and so many people were making money, and it was generally very young people who were, getting paid, like I said, like fishermen. This guy was a fisherman. He's like a crab fisherman, and his captain's like, you want to make 50 grand tonight? Sure. Go offload some marijuana off this ship. And, I don't know where I was getting at with this story, but,
I came to Florida in the early 80s.
Uh-huh.
I certainly was never offered the opportunity to make a lot of money transporting or having anything to do with drugs.
Really?
No, I was not.
But you were a lawyer.
Well, I wasn't a lawyer when I first came here. I came here in 81. I was 17.
Okay.
Right? And then went to college.
Yeah, but you were in Tampa, right?
Well, I know, but there was drug trafficking in Tampa. Maybe not the same as Miami, but...
Right. Nowhere close to Miami, I don't think.
No, but the point is, most people don't become drug traffickers, mm-hmm. even when the opportunity is there, right? Mm-hmm. Even in the early 80s, it wasn't like everybody. I have a lot of contemporaries. The vast majority have never had anything to do with drug trafficking.
Right.
So was the opportunity there for people who weren't so inclined? Absolutely.
Right.
Is the opportunity here now for those who are so inclined? Absolutely.
Yeah.
The money that people are making, distributing fentanyl is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I had a client who was caught with a significant amount of fentanyl, was addicted to fentanyl, right? So he's making fake oxycodone pills. He had $1.4 million in cash in his house when they arrested him. For someone to be able to be addicted to the drug and still have that kind of revenues coming in, so it's, the opportunity is there for people who want to do it. It was there in the 80s. It's there today. It's different drugs. But to suggest that because the opportunity is there that, everyone has the opportunity, no, it's some people make those choices. They're not bad people necessarily because
right.
they make the choices. There's a variety of reasons why they end up making those choices. Most of them, probably come from a poor background. Although there are people that come from, I've had clients who were very wealthy, who never needed to do anything like that, and ended up getting involved in the intrigue, I guess, of and the adrenaline rush that probably is associated with drug trafficking, mm-hmm. right? But
I feel like I just empathize with it because I see myself as an 18-year-old. When I was 18 years old, I was working on a construction site, and one of my friends said, "Do you want to make $50,000 tonight? All you got to do is just pull a couple bales of cocaine and throw them in a pickup truck and drive it an hour down the road." It would be hard for me to say no.
Sure. Well, how about, take this car and drive it to Orlando for me, and you
right.
make 10 grand.
Right. Are you kidding me?
Right. Right.
In a heartbeat.
But it's not something that's just offered to anyone, right? Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever offered that to you?
Yes.
Someone's offered for you to drive a car that was. I hope you declined.
I declined when I was working construction when I was younger. I had someone ask me if I could drive a truck to Jacksonville.
Okay.
He didn't tell me what was in it.
Right.
And he told me he was going to pay me a lot of money. I didn't do it. But yeah.
Right. And then some people think that oh, if I don't know what's in there, then it's not a problem. Well, that makes it really even worse, because if you don't, it's something that's not right, because people aren't going to just pay you $10,000 or $5,000 to drive a car, from here to Jacksonville or Orlando.
Right.
So there's something illegal in that car.
Right.
There's something unlawful about it, whether it's drugs, weapons, anthrax,
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it is the rush, and especially just like I feel like young people. It's just young people are more susceptible to it because they're kids, and their brains aren't fully developed, and they can't make well-informed decisions most of the time.
No doubt.
And those are the people that get locked up, right? Most
a lot of times, yeah, and they're the ones that frequently are very much afraid to talk about the people that hired them to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know where I was getting at with that story about the weed guy.
Okay.
He came time for him to. He said, and it came time for him to cooperate against because he was the people that were bringing the cargo ships full of weed off the coast of Naples, I believe it was. They were coming from Colombia, coming through the Yucatan Peninsula. And the prosecutor was like, okay, you need to give us the names of these Colombians, because he was also going down to Colombia towards the end of it.
Right.
And he basically said, if I tell you any of the names of these Colombians, I'm dead and my entire family's dead. He's like, my daughter and my mother and everyone in my family would be murdered. Like, do you understand that? Like, if I tell you the names of these Colombians, it's basically a death warrant for me and my whole family.
Right.
And somehow he was able to only get 4 years, I think.
Right. So my guess is he probably did provide the names.
He
of the
says he
Colombians.
didn't.
I know. I mean,
You would say.
I'm going to tell any of my clients who might be doing that to tell people you didn't do it.
Okay.
Right.
But
you don't broadcast that kind of information.
Right, but if I doesn't it happen in cases where people do cooperate against people, the prosecutors will take this to somebody else and be like, this guy gave you up. They don't even honor that.
No, that's not how it works. In federal court, that's not how it works.
It's not.
No. So in federal court, in state court, we get what's called discovery, which will have the names of all the witnesses that are against you, right?
Right.
In federal court, you get some discovery. You don't get the names of the witnesses. All right? You don't get the names of the witnesses until the day, maybe a week or the day that your trial starts. All right? Okay. So you never really know unless you actually decide to go to trial, which 97% chooses not to go to trial. You never really know. So if you're on the outside and you're involved in drug trafficking, you're going to assume that whoever is arrested is providing you the government information, right? That's what happens.
You have to be prepared for that.
That's what you assume, right? So for the person who's on the inside or the person who's been charged, even if that person is not providing information, the people that are on the outside are going to assume that you provide information, right?
Right.
So the potential for danger is there regardless. I mean, I had a client who did not provide information years ago who actually was killed shortly after he was released from jail because his sentence was so low that they assumed,
really
wrongfully, that he had provided information.
Oh my God.
But in the federal level, generally, people are never going to know who provided information.
Generally. There's still a chance.
There's always exceptions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for this guy to only get 4 years, that's extremely lucky if he didn't cooperate.
I don't know all the details about him specifically, but